Hello, hello. Today we are going to talk about how to build secure infant attachment. If you missed last week's lecture on understanding infant attachment, you can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/relationships-love-happiness, and you can watch the Understanding Infant Attachment lecture, which is the prequel to this lecture today. So let me get the free PDF to accompany this lecture in the comments below. You can click on that, and here we go. You can click on that and follow along. There we go. All right. So down below there is a link to a free PDF that you can follow along with me today to learn about how to build a secure infant attachment. So just to go a little bit off of last week. So last week we talked about what attachment theory is. And so just a very, very brief reminder that attachment is used to explain the bond between a child and their primary caregiver or caregivers. So you can have more than one primary caregiver. And the child creates, the child uses the bond that they have with their primary caregiver or caregivers to help them downregulate stress. And so throughout their life. And so infants are in distress. Primary caregivers respond in hopefully a caring, sensitive, positive, quick way. Then the children or the infants use that response to develop mental frameworks in their brain that help them start to think about how the world is and how people are. And, they think, well, mom and dad are always responding to me in positive, nice ways. Other people are probably positive and good intentioned and willing to help me. Attachment theory is a cradle to the grave theory in that it starts to develop, your attachment style starts to develop when you are born with your primary caregiver, and at some point in the first 2 to 3 years of life, you develop an attachment style that many of us, not all of us, but many of us carry with us throughout our life. And we use that attachment style to develop relationships with other people, whether it's friendships, work relationships, romantic relationships. Okay, that is very, very basic. So I'm sure if you watched the lecture from last week, you were wondering, well, how do I go about creating a secure attachment? So if you look at the first page of the handout for today, I have a bit of an acronym to help you remember what to do. And so the acronym is REACT. And so whenever your child is in distress, your newborn, your 6-month-old, your 2-year-old is in distress of any kind, you should react. The first step is to respond as soon as possible. And when I say as soon as possible, and when I say respond, I want to be clear that I mean at minimum a verbal response, ideally a physical response. So baby is crying and you physically go to them while verbally communicating at the same time, but you physically go to them and respond as quickly as possible, like within a couple of minutes, if not a couple of seconds. It should be very fast. But I understand there are plenty of times in your life when baby is crying and you cannot get to baby in the first minute. And so verbal response, I'm coming baby, I'm on my way, saying things like that can help your infant know that you are on your way to responding. So at minimum, verbal response, reassuring the baby that you are coming, you are on your way, you will be there in a few minutes. But ideally, a physical response. So baby is crying and you physically go and get them, physically increase your proximity. And you get close to them and you pick them up. All right, so the next thing, so we have respond as soon as possible. The next step is to evaluate what is wrong. And so I know this you can evaluate in your head. you know, you don't need to talk to an infant and ask them. They're not going to respond to you like, oh, I was scared by a noise. The baby's not going to do that. So you could evaluate in your head, but I suggest that you actually evaluate out loud. So what's wrong? What's going on? Are you hungry? Do you need a diaper change? Are you just scared? Do you need mommy? Do you need to be held? You know, speaking to the baby, even if you know what is wrong, speaking to the baby while evaluating is a good practice to have. And so evaluating what's wrong can be, I mean, you might know, oh, it's time to feed baby, so okay, I know what time it is. But sometimes it takes a little detective work, right? So you run down the list of things it could possibly be, and then other times you've run down the list and it doesn't seem to be like it's any of those things, and you realize, well, maybe he was just lonely. Maybe she just didn't want to be in the other room while I'm making dinner. And so try to evaluate what is wrong. And one of the best ways for a primary caregiver to start being able to evaluate what's wrong quickly is to spend significant amounts of time with that infant. And so the people who spend the most amount of time with an infant will start to become in tune with the infant. And will start to realize, oh, well, that cry means this, and this cry means that. Or, oh, he always cries around 2 o'clock. He's really tired. And so you start to recognize what the cries mean, what different cries mean, or what different distress signs mean. And it can help you evaluate what's wrong easier. The next thing, so we have respond, ASAP. E is for evaluate what's wrong. A is for acknowledge feelings. And again, this probably sounds a little weird to say to an infant, oh, I understand that you're sad. I understand that you're tired. But it is a really good practice to start. Because when your baby is a little older and when they turn into a toddler and a preschooler, acknowledging feelings is one of the best things that you can do for a small child. And so if you can start getting in the groove of doing it when they're babies, it can help you not have to start a new activity, not try to start a new habit when they're 3 years old and they need it really badly. And I would argue that, you know, babies want to be understood even as young as 6 or 8 months. And so starting it from birth, from the get-go, oh, I know you're so sad. You really are hungry. I feel sad when I'm hungry too, right? So just speaking, and you can never talk to a baby too much. So it really helps them with their language development. So keep talking. Talk the entire time. Acknowledge their feelings. Tell them that you understand what they're feeling. And sometimes we don't understand what they're feeling. Like we don't know what's wrong, and you know, we don't know why they're upset. Just saying, I know you're upset. You don't need to know why they're upset, but, oh, you sound so sad. You are really angry right now. You sound really frustrated. Giving them the words for those feelings is, even though they're infants, is a really great practice, like I said, for when they're toddlers. So respond, ASAP. E is for evaluate what's wrong. A is for acknowledge feelings. And C is for comfort with touch. Like I said, when you respond, you should respond with physical proximity if you can, but at minimum, verbal response is warranted. But eventually, you're going to have to comfort with physical touch. You need to pick baby up, you need to pat baby's back, rub baby's back, bounce the baby, hug the baby. You need to do something to help them be comforted. Human beings are all comforted with physical touch, some of us more than others, but a securely attached child can be comforted with physical touch. Yeah, it's really important. Physical touch is very, very important. So comfort with physical touch. The last part of the acronym is to take it easy. Let me tell you, I have dealt with some crying babies. Like I said in my last lecture, I have 4 children, under 7 and under. I have had a lot of crying. experienced a significant amount of crying. And I understand that it can be very frustrating and difficult and just hard to not lose it. But you have to do everything in your power to take it easy, to keep your cool, to not get more upset than the baby, to not turn the attention of the upset to you. We're dealing with an infant's distress, not an adult's distress. You may be experiencing distress, especially if you can't calm baby down, but you don't need to let baby know that you're in distress. You need to take it easy as best you can, even in the middle of the night when it's really hard and you're really tired. There should be no, yelling at the baby or being mean physically or verbally to the baby. You have to avoid that at all costs. And so some of you are probably thinking, well, I'm the primary caregiver and sometimes I'm just at my wit's end. What am I supposed to do? Put the baby in a safe place and walk away and go breathe and take a break. Because while all of my other tips up to this point have been to increase proximity and hold the baby and comfort the baby and respond as soon as possible, it is worse to react negatively than it is to distance yourself. And if you need to take 60 seconds, you need to take 5 whole minutes to breathe and to not listen to the crying and to walk out of the room, put the baby in a safe place and do it. If you have the ability to call a friend or call a neighbor, do it. If you have the ability to have a family member come over and watch the baby for even just 20 minutes, do it. You need to keep your cool, and you need to take it easy yourself. And you need to recharge when you have the ability to. So after the baby is done with their distressful moment, take that time to just get some meditation going and woosah, calm down. It's really important for you. All right, so that is one tactic that you can take, is the react method. So respond, evaluate, acknowledge, comfort, take it easy. On the next page of the handout, I have a list of behaviors that foster security and behaviors that create insecurity. And so I think that this is a nice list of things that you can try to increase more of the behaviors on the left and decrease or minimize or eliminate the behaviors on the right. So behaviors that foster security, here we go. Holding, hugging, assuring. So there goes the mommy's always here, daddy's always here for you, I love you so much. Complimenting. And I know it sounds weird to compliment an infant, but like I said, many of these behaviors are really great for toddlers and preschoolers, and if you can start the habit when they're infants, it can create a good habit for you, good communication habits for you later. Picking up, comforting, encouraging, apologizing. So if you have moments where you lose your cool, where you snap, where you say something that you don't mean, giving a genuine apology even to an infant is important. Because I think you'll be surprised how early babies understand what you're saying. They just can't verbalize it themselves, but they understand what you're saying. And they definitely understand tone very young. So apologize. Tell them you're sorry. Be genuine about it. Sharing, cuddling, smiling, acknowledging, validating, speaking calmly, and just overall being happy. These are all behaviors that foster security in infants. When infants are in distress and you are engaging in behaviors that are on the left side of this page that I just talked about, it helps infants feel like you are there for them, trust that you are going to help them, and encourages them to downregulate their own stress. oppositely, behaviors that create insecurity, clearly. Hitting, kicking, diminishing or belittling, avoiding, demeaning, scowling, criticizing. Avoid criticism at all costs. Yelling, neglecting, acting disinterested. Mom, look at this. Mom, look at this. Mom, look at this. And acting disinterested. It's not good. Ignoring, silencing, speaking harshly, and being inconsistent. You know, sometimes you are sensitive and caring, and other times you're snapping and yelling. You have to pick a side and stick to it. That inconsistency is really not good for attachment security. And my last handout today is some attachment reminders. So some things to do, some things to say, some things to avoid. Specifically, remember that you need to respond. Try to attend to your child within 90 seconds as quickly as possible. And even if that's just a verbal response. Comfort child with physical touch by hugging, holding, carrying around, rubbing their back, etc. React to child in consistent ways. What to say, evaluate what's wrong, and give the child words. So saying things like, are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need to be hugged? Ask questions like that. Acknowledge and validate feelings. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel frustrated about this. This is hard. That is such a great thing to say to little kids. This is hard. I get it. This is hard. It makes them realize that they're not alone in experiencing this extreme feeling that they're experiencing. What to avoid? Letting your child cry it out. It's not a good idea. Remember, as we talked about last time, if the stress response goes on too long or is activated too frequently, it actually can become toxic to our bodies. It can actually start to harm our bodies physically and emotionally. And so you do not want to do that. Ignoring a child, downplaying a child's feelings by saying things like, it's okay, which is something that I have said so much, and it's really hard. Instead, replace it's okay with it will be okay. Because just think about when you say that to an adult who's upset. It's okay. No, it's not. It's not okay. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm frustrated. I'm stressed out. It's not okay, actually. Will it be okay? Probably. And so that's a better thing to say instead of just, it's okay. It will be okay. Don't say things like, it's not a big deal. Or stop being so upset. Calm down. Get over it. All of those things are not very good to say to children. And you should also avoid getting more upset than the child. You really scared me. Or that made me really mad. Because then they become so consumed with your happiness, with your emotional stability, that they might push their own feelings down to avoid not upsetting you, because you're number one in their life. They don't want to upset you. Whether you're nice to them or not, you're number one in their life. And so they might start pushing their own feelings down, which is really bad, in order to appease you, as to not upset you. All right, and that's what I have for building secure attachment, so how to actually go about it. Look on the blog tomorrow at relationshipslovehappiness.com for an article that is going to summarize a lot of what I talked about today. And I'm planning to do another mini lecture next Thursday about infant attachment again, where I'm going to try to answer some frequently asked questions. Look on our Facebook page for a form where you can submit anonymously your questions about attachment, and I will answer them in a mini lecture next week. Have a great afternoon.